Your biggest opportunity to help you grow and scale to your multi-7 and 8-figure level is not what got you to 6 and 7 figures. This is important because often we continue to focus on the same things that won't actually help us get there. You can brute force your way there, but that will often lead you to being unprofitable. So after building an 8-figure company and working with a wide range of brands in different industries from 7 to 9 figures, we've identified some important needle movers that will help you scale easier and more profitably. And I'm going to show you a concept called flip the funnel. So let's dive in and talk about flipping the funnel. Now, if you guys are familiar, you've seen this already many times about having a marketing funnel that has different stages. And the whole goal for us as brand owners and founders and marketers is to bring customers further down the funnel, right? We get people in the top. Let's say that we're spending on, Meta ads, or we're running Google ads, or we're doing organic, right? Whatever it may be, we're trying to push and move people further and further down the funnel until they end up purchasing with us and buying a product, right? And that's our entire goal. And so what happens is we look at this funnel, we're continuously dumping cash that we get back into the funnel and doing this over and over again to hopefully help us to grow and scale. But the problem is that when we get people to the sale, one of the hardest things is actually getting that first purchase for them to trust us. And as you guys know, in this economy in 2026, trust is everything. Trust is so important to build with our customers. So a lot of times what happens is brands will grow and scale. And let's say in terms of revenue, right? You might have, been able to get to that 10, 50K a month mark, and, things are pretty good. And as you continue to kind of go up the scale here, you get to a much higher revenue amount. Let's say you got to 100K a month here. And then up here, you got to 250K a month, or whatever revenue threshold you're at that you've been able to scale to, right? And as you continue to move up here, you make more and more money. But what happens is your ROAS continues to drop. And then you get to a point where you're at your break even, right? Where your break even ROAS, you're actually struggling to get your ROAS above, so that you can actually put more and more people through this funnel. And so you get stuck, you plateau, because now more money you put in does not equal more money down here. There's a diminishing return from doing that. So what can we do? Well, this is what I like to call flipping the funnel. So when we flip the funnel, what changes? Well, when we flip the funnel, we've got a whole different way to think about our marketing and how we do things. Let's say we've got people coming in at the very top, right? These people who are coming in are actually our new customers. So there's a whole nother side to this. And maybe you guys are doing email, right? You're sending them emails and, that's resulting in some more cash, or, maybe that you're doing, some SMS as well, and that's bringing you a bit of money as well. But there's a point where you kind of get in this routine of just sending people emails and SMSs, and you just continue to market to the same list over and over and over again for months and years, and then your list gets lower quality, and then nothing really happens. But the problem is that when you don't focus and looking down the funnel here, and you're not looking, this is a terrible drawing of an eye, right? If you're not looking down here and down here in your funnel to maximize your customer value, you're going to miss out, because what's going to happen is this money that we're having to put back in the top of the funnel, which is a requirement in order for us to grow, if we're able to get more output out of this flipping the funnel, we no longer have to worry about the ROI and the ROAS. Instead of going from a 1.5 or a 1.8 as our break even, or a 2.1, because we have this bottom of funnel, we can be at 2.5 or 3 at the end of a, say, 60 to 90 day life cycle, or maybe it's a bit longer, maybe it's 120 days, and we can be generating a much higher LTV. But if we're only getting the 1.5, 2.1, or 1.8, then we're capped. We're almost capping ourselves, and we all know that advertising is not going to get any cheaper. So this will end up not working out very well for us. So when we flip the funnel, we kind of have a new perspective. We start to see things differently, because if we know that more cash can come in, what do we need to do here? How do we need to think about this differently? So what I often see to help make sense of this is, let's just imagine for a second that we've got this iceberg on the water, And there's a bunch of it that we don't see, right? Everyone's seen the picture of the iceberg under the water, right? All we really get to see of the iceberg is this. But in reality, everything underneath the water is much larger than what's above. This is what our ads can generate in revenue and money and dollars. But everything below the water, below the surface, what we don't see is actually where we can increase profitability, increase LTV, increase ROAS, increase ROI. We do the basics, right? Which is, we do the email, we do the SMS. But this is a really good analogy to think about how you go about your business, because this is the most neglected part of most 6-figure, 7-figure businesses. And I've even seen 7-figure businesses not really have any sort of SMS and email strategy here. We should be making up 20 to 30% of our revenue monthly with email and SMS. Now, there's a few other things that we can add to this list to help us be more profitable and help us to grow. Another thing is loyalty program or a reward, right? Reward program. Another thing that we can add here as well is data. So there's a platform called Omnisend that allows you to capture identities of people who are coming to your website that you normally wouldn't be able to capture. So let me kind of illustrate this for you here real quick. Let's say that you're running a handful of ads, right? You've got video ads, you've got static ads, and you're running these over to your webpage. Now, you're going to have, take these dots as people. You're going to have people drift over here. You're going to have people from your ads. You're going to be spending money here, putting money in, right? And you're going to have these people come over to your website and start browsing around and looking at your products. But what happens is sometimes they don't have an email, or they don't have a phone number, and they don't give it to you anywhere. They just end up leaving your website and you don't even capture them, right? You may be able to retarget them with the ads, but there's about 50 to 80% of people who are just going to leave that you might be able to retarget with your ads, but sometimes you can't capture all that data. And so a platform like Omnisend, what it does is it is able to cross-reference their IP address, their information, and capture it and check and validate if they've opted in for other marketing material elsewhere. All of these identities can then be taken and you can send them an SMS or an email to then bring them back to the website to buy from you. So that's just one example of something that you can do that is below the surface that I learned in helping us to figure out how do we focus more on getting more revenue underneath the surface. Now, another one that we don't really talk about very much is your product and your brand. And what I mean by this is it's not something you do, but it actually helps drive revenue, because if you have these two things figured out and you have an amazing product and you have an amazing brand, then those two things go hand in hand with helping you to grow more effortlessly. There's too many times when I see brands that don't have a great product and a great brand, meaning that they haven't really thought through, they haven't developed the formula, haven't developed it in a way that is proprietary to them, and they've just repurposed something that they've been able to find overseas, that this almost every time will end up hurting them, and they'll have to be fighting an uphill battle with getting more and more customers coming in the funnel. And once these customers go through and they buy the product, they underdeliver on the promise that they're marketing the product for. They don't live up to the expectations that the product was set through the ads and marketing, which then deters people away from recommending to their friends and spreading that via word of mouth. That's a very important thing to keep in mind, is that actually helps you to grow. And all of this revenue, or this lost revenue that you could be having, is actually more below the surface. So it's more revenue, but it's also more profitability, because we're not talking about putting more money in for ads. We're talking about keeping everything the same, but doing this better, really, okay? That's what we're talking about. Now, another thing that we can do is also get people on subscriptions. So depending on the business and what you do, subscriptions can be a part of your strategy. But my point here is that when we flip the funnel, there's all these different things that we can do. A couple of them we're probably already doing. But if we have all of these things implemented, it's going to help us to be able to generate more revenue and make us more profitable on the top side of our funnel. All right. And so here we'll actually end up making even more money, probably by several multiples, maybe 2x, 3x of what we're doing without focusing on this and just kind of doing this as an afterthought, if we actually flip the funnel and think about when a new customer comes in, how do we generate more revenue? Because they are the easiest people to generate more revenue with because they already trust you. They've already given you their credit card. This is where we need to focus. If you're a 7 or 8 figure brand and you want to take a step towards flipping the funnel, then you can get started with TxtCart with a 14-day free trial with $1,000 in free SMS credits. We get to use AI to have conversations with all your potential customers that you're attracting to your site and close more sales to help you be more profitable. And you can find a link for that down below in the description. Thanks so much for watching. I recommend you watch this video next, and I'll see you in the next one.